Beacon was still kind of an unknown. People knew where it was. It's really well situated. That helped. You're still very city oriented. The city you just get sort of ignored and pushed past. But here you had a way to sort of gradually make your way in and participate in events. And that was wonderful. And I was able to show, and I had my first solo show here. Just really liked it. The idea that people coming up from the city, maybe they were making art there, maybe they felt kind of stifled. I know I did. Just kind of really kind of scrambling to get by. And coming up here, you felt like you could, I felt like I could relax a little more. In terms of the present and the future, Catalyst has been a really important part of the community. And I wouldn't say that just by myself, but again, getting feedback from all the other artists who have shown here, from people who just like to come out and see art, they always know they can come up with something good, come out and see something good here. Art is what still is the beating heart of this community in a lot of ways. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of real estate going up. Why are they here? There's a lot of shops and restaurants and breweries. Why are they here? Well, it's art, it's artists. It's a story that you hear in a lot of places, but there's something very special about Beacon. I've only lived in a couple of places my whole life, all in New York State, all in the city and so on. But people who've lived all over the world say Beacon is special and there isn't anything else quite like it.
I think very often artists are the first to come in and help revitalize communities that are in need of revitalization. So Newburgh, as a town that was once, or a small city that was once thriving with industry and downtown shopping, and it was a transportation hub, that as the city kind of went into decline and industry moved off and went south for cheaper workforce and labor, the city went into bad decline. And as a result, there was a lot of disinvestment and a lot of abandoned buildings and a lot of sort of urban downtown issues that made it difficult for revitalization. And I think artists tend to be sort of unfazed by blight, and they see opportunity where other people don't. And they see the beauty in these old buildings, and they also typically, if there's beautiful old buildings that there's been disinvestment, they're going to be affordable. So artists typically are in need of affordable space to live and work. So I think that's like a perfect confluence. You've got this kind of opportunity in a city like Newburgh where there is a lot of vacancy, but a lot of beautiful structures, a lot of beautiful architecture. There's a beautiful physical situation here where I'm right in the Hudson, so it's just kind of, it's beautiful geographically, it's beautiful historically, and from an architecture standpoint, and it's proximate to New York City. So I think that's what attracts artists, and I think that artists then find cool, creative ways to revitalize our downtowns. I definitely think artists, not only do they take that chance and come into communities and buy buildings and invest in our communities, art elevates everything, right? So I feel like art brings hope, art brings pride to communities, art brings, of course, beauty to communities, and a vibrancy and just kind of a creative element to communities, which I think is good for everybody in a community. I do think that the community supports the artists as well as, of course, the artists really helping to bolster up the community. I think there's always a role for the arts in communities. I think the more art that comes in, the more art that is, stays in, right? So if you've got one struggling gallery and that's all you have, that gallery is going to have a lot harder time staying relevant, staying, part of the community. But as the arts community builds, I think it gathers momentum. I think that said, we have to be really careful that we don't price out artists, because that's what oftentimes happens to artists is, again, they're kind of the first ones in. So they'll come in and they take a chance and they find affordable space, and they help turn communities around with their arts and bringing the culture and bringing the patrons of the arts, and then all of a sudden the rents start to rise, and now all of a sudden they can't live here anymore and they're moving on to the next urban frontier. So I think it's important that we make sure that we maintain affordability for our artists in the community, but I do think more is more.